Big welcome to today's Let's Talk Science Festival event, Go Extinct, as part of Science Week 2020. My name is Emma.
I'm Geraldine.
And we are both scientists, and we have specialised in a particular type of biology called zoology, which, for those of you who might have been to the zoo before, you'll know that it's the study of animals. And we just want to say a big thank you as well to the Rediscovery Centre in Ballymun for inviting us to take part today. We're delighted to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. We're really delighted to be invited to the Let's Talk Science Festival, so we hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, like as Emma said, we love animals, we love studying them and learning about them, and we hope you do too. Right now, we are live in the museum, and we will be here today until 10:30 a.m. Okay, but yesterday, myself and Emma, we prepared a very special recording that will take you inside the museum, and we'll talk about our scientific topic for today, which is extinction. So this short recording lasts about 20 minutes, and during the recording as well, you get to meet some of our friends behind us here from our handling collection, all right? And once the recording's over, we'll then be back here live again to take your questions. So please, guys, if you have any questions at all, please pop them into the comments. Myself and Emma will answer them for you, hopefully. We'd also love to know if what schools or what locations you're tuning in from, so please put them into the comments too. So guys, we hope you enjoy today's event, and we'll see you back here live again very soon. Okay, thanks.
Welcome to the National Museum of Ireland Natural History, sometimes called the Dead Zoo. My name is Geraldine.
And I'm Emma. We are both zoologists and museum educators. Today, we're going to take you inside the museum to see some of the animals and learn more about them. Let's go!
This science museum opened its doors over 163 years ago, and today it has over 10,000 animals and fossils for you to see up close. Discover the wildlife of the Irish Room and fossils of animals that used to live in Ireland long ago. Visit the Mammals of the World exhibition, where you can get nose to nose with some of the largest creatures on Earth, from whale skeletons to elephants and even a tiger. And don't forget to look at the balconies, where you'll find lots of fish, reptiles, birds, insects, spiders, and much more. You can visit the museum to see all these exciting animals, or visit the website to see more videos and a 3D virtual walkthrough of the museum, on which you can learn more about the exhibits from the comfort of your own home or classroom. See if you're able to spot your favourite animal. Could it be the rare giant panda? Or maybe a basking shark, the biggest fish in the Irish Sea? Step inside one of Ireland's most visited museums, where there are lots of amazing things to learn and explore.
These animals are all very different, but they all have one thing in common. Can you think of a word people use to describe when a species or type of animal is no longer found living somewhere? That's right, it's extinct. To be extinct means to no longer exist, like the dinosaurs. But there are many more examples of animals that have become extinct over the history of life on Earth, and there are many different reasons why an animal might go extinct. Can you think of any? Some examples are through overhunting, climate change, natural disasters, habitat loss or losing the places where they live, or pollution. These things can be natural, like how the dinosaurs became extinct, or they can be caused by humans. So welcome back, guys. We hope you enjoyed those couple of introductory videos we had for you there, introducing you to the museum, getting a sneak peek inside, and also introducing you to our main topic today of extinction. And this brings me to another thing that I'd like to discuss with you guys today, and it's why do we even have museums in the first place? Why do we have these places? And if you think back to the past, when people started to discover parts of animals or fossils, things like that, they needed somewhere to put them so that they could learn more about them. And people could visit them, look at them, learn more about how animals work on the inside and on the outside. And they needed somewhere to put them all together. So that is what they did. And in the first video, you would have seen that we have 10,000 animals on display for everyone to see in our museum. But we also have a scientific collection that's housed somewhere else in Dublin. And our science collection has over 2 million specimens in it. Yeah, that is used for scientific research all the time. So people can come and visit and learn more about the animals that are in that. So 1 million of them are insects. They're really small. They don't take up a lot of space. But we do have 1 million other animals for people to look at too. So that brings us to our next video, which is of one of the most famous specimens in the museum collections. It's that of the giant Irish deer. One of the most amazing things you can see at the museum are these giant skeletons. Have you seen a similar shaped animal anywhere in Ireland before? You may have seen deer, such as the red deer in Killarney National Park in County Kerry, or the fallow deer in the Phoenix Park in Dublin. These are the fossil skeletons of another type of deer that also used to live right here in Ireland, the giant Irish deer. These amazing animals roamed the grasslands of Ireland over 10,000 years ago. Unfortunately, we can't see them today because they are extinct. So, how do we know that they lived here in the past? We know this because their fossil skeletons were found under the bogs in Ireland. Scientists think that these giant Irish deer went extinct even before humans arrived in Ireland, and some think that they went extinct as a result of natural climate change. There was a long period of cold in Ireland, about 10,000 years ago, which lasted for 500 years. During this time, Ireland was covered in a blanket of ice and snow. Plants disappeared, and the deer could no longer find food to survive, so they eventually went extinct.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that video about the giant Irish deer. And did you see the massive antlers on their heads? Aren't they just huge? They're amazing. So giant Irish deer actually hold the world record for the largest antlers of any deer species in the whole world. So we're really lucky to have such fabulous displays in the museum. Wow. So we have some antlers to show you here today on our table. So what are antlers? Antlers are basically made from bone, and yes, they sit on top of deer's heads. So this antler here is from a fallow deer. And fallow deer live in Ireland today, and you might have seen them yourselves in the Phoenix Park in Dublin. And they also were on the video that you saw a few minutes ago. They were the smaller deer that had the nice spots on them. And if you look closely at this antler, you'll see at the top here it has a kind of wide shape, and it's actually a bit like the palm of your hand. So we call this antler shape a palmate antler. And the fallow deer and the giant Irish deer both have palmate antlers, and it turns out the fallow deer is actually the giant Irish deer's closest living relative even, which is cool to know. Then this other antler that we have here on the table is from a different species of deer. That's why it looks different. And it's from the red deer. And the red deer is now Ireland's largest living deer here today. And you would have seen it in the video as well. And this deer, you can see its antlers are completely different shape. So it doesn't have that flat kind of palmate shape. Instead, it has these points or tines. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tines on this antler. But they can get bigger, and they can have up to 8 tines. Wow. So there you go, there's some facts about antlers. Now, my favourite fact about antlers, though, is that every year The males, they have them on their heads, and every year they just fall off, they fall off their heads, the antlers do, and then they regrow a brand new pair within a few months.
Wow.
Even the giant Irish deer would do this every year. So their antlers would fall off and they'd regrow a brand new pair within a few months, which is amazing. It's mind-blowing, in fact. Right, so I think it's time for our next video, and I think this one might surprise you guys because it's a story about a hyena. Enjoy.
This jawbone belongs to an animal that used to live in Ireland over 30,000 years ago. Look at those sharp teeth. This is a fossil which was found in a cave in County Cork, and it belonged to a spotted hyena, like this one, from modern-day Africa. Ireland was once home to hyenas, brown bears, and even woolly mammoths. At the museum, we have evidence that all of these animals once lived in Ireland. They came to Ireland by walking from Europe. Back then, the sea levels were much lower, and that meant there were land bridges between neighbouring countries. When the sea levels rose over many thousands of years, Ireland became cut off from other countries. When the climate changed during the Ice Age, many of these animals could no longer survive in Ireland and were unable to move back to warmer parts of Europe. This is how many of these animals became extinct. So welcome back, guys. We hope you enjoyed that video, and yeah, it might have been a bit of a surprise to you. It definitely was for me and Geraldine when we first heard that hyenas used to live in Ireland, spotted hyenas, like the ones that you see in nature documentaries from Africa. So that's really amazing they used to live in Ireland. And this kind of brings us to some of the evidence that we have for animals that would have lived in the past. So you saw in that video we have a jawbone from a cave in County Cork, and that's how we know that hyenas lived here. So animals leave bones behind, but they also leave other things. Sometimes they might leave footprints in kind of footprints that are preserved in muck. You know, we end up being able to tell what animals they belong to. And sometimes they leave other evidence that becomes fossils. So I have a very special fossil here to show you today. So I'm just going to pop up to camera.
To enjoy this one.
And give you a closer look. This is one of our favourite fossils in the museum, and if you take a look at it, it definitely looks funny, and it looks a lot like what it was when it was first made. It's a special kind of fossil called a coprolite, and this is fossil poo, guys. This is actually a fossil hyena poo, and this came from a place in Europe called Hungary. But we do have a hyena coprolite in our museum science collection that is from Ireland as well. And coprolites or fossil poos are really useful if you want to figure out what kind of food an animal ate in the past, because you can look inside and tell what their diet was. So that is definitely one of our favourite fossils that we have in the museum here. So, yeah, we're going to move on now, and we're going to move forward in time, guys, come much closer to the present day, and we're looking at another video now of an animal that went extinct because of humans, and it's called the thylacine. This animal, the very unusual thylacine, is one that went extinct in recent times. Other names include the Tasmanian tiger or Tasmanian wolf. If you take a closer look, you can see why. It looks like a dog or wolf-shaped animal with stripes along its back, like a tiger. They lived in Australia and on an island called Tasmania. Although it looks like a dog, this animal was actually a closer relative of animals such as the kangaroo and the koala. It was a marsupial, meaning it had a pouch to carry its young. When Europeans travelled to Australia and Tasmania in the 1800s, they brought animals such as sheep to farm. But thylacines were thought to be sheep hunters, and soon rewards were offered by the government to anyone who would hunt and kill a thylacine. As a result, many thylacines were hunted, and by 1914 they were considered a rare species. People began to realise that perhaps some of these animals should be protected or kept in zoos. However, humans knew very little about how to keep them, and they were declared extinct in 1936, when the last known thylacine died in Hobart Zoo in Tasmania. Only under 800 specimens are found in museums around the world today, and we are lucky enough to have some here. We use the thylacine as an important reminder of the impact that humans can have on nature and what can happen when we don't work hard to protect a species.
Welcome back, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that video about the thylacine. And don't forget that you can see the thylacine or any of the animals on display in the museum online. So you can check out, you just go to museum.ie and find our virtual visit, which is basically like a tour around the galleries that you can navigate yourself. So enjoy doing that. But for now, I want to show you a replica Thylacine skull. So hang on a minute while I bring it up to you guys, so you can get a closer look. So this here is our Thylacine skull. And thylacines, as you might remember Emma said in the video, are marsupials. So they're more related to animals like kangaroos and koalas than they are to dogs and wolves, even though they really look like dogs and wolves. So if we look at the skull here, you can see that's where the eye socket is, and there's its lovely teeth. And you can see its nose as well. And you might ask, Geraldine, how do you know that this isn't a dog skull? Because it looks really like a dog or wolf skull. Well, I can show you. So if we just turn the skull upside down, open it up here, and you can see inside the roof of the mouth now. And do you see these two holes here? These holes in the roof of the mouth are only found in animals like marsupials. So that's one way a scientist will know how to identify this thylacine skull, because dogs and wolves do not have these holes here. If I close the skull back over now, and we can see its lovely teeth. So teeth are a really useful way, again, for scientists when they're trying to identify skulls of maybe an extinct animal. This will give them clues into the animal's life and behaviour. So if we look at the teeth here, we can see nice sharp teeth, especially these big canines here. So it's a carnivore. But also, if we were to count the teeth, we would count 46 sharp teeth. And we know, our scientists know, that thylacines have 46 teeth, where dogs and wolves don't have that many teeth. They only have about 42. So there you go, now you know how to identify a thylacine skull. So I think now it's time for our very last video. So we hope that you enjoy it. It's about one of our favourite animals at the museum, or in the world even. It's the grey wolf.
When we think of extinction, we imagine animals that are extinct throughout the world and can no longer be found anywhere today. But did you know that an animal can be extinct from just one part of its natural range? This happens when an animal becomes extinct in one area, but can still be found in other areas. This is called local extinction. This animal is called the grey wolf. And although it can be found in other parts of the world, it has become extinct in Ireland. Did you know that wolves used to live in Ireland? The Irish word for wolf is Mac Tíre, meaning son of the land. There is evidence of wolves living in Ireland from about 30,000 years ago, long before humans arrived, and they continue to live alongside us right up until 1786. There are many mentions of wolves in Irish legends and in many Irish place names and surnames. Under English rule, the government saw the presence of wolves in Ireland as a bad thing, and they began to try and get rid of them. Rewards were offered to anyone who killed a wolf. Soon their numbers declined, and it's thought that the last wolf in Ireland was shot in 1786 on Mount Leinster on the Wexford-Carlow border. Though wolves are now extinct in Ireland, they still live in many other countries around the world. Recently, they have even been reintroduced or put back into areas where they used to live. Protecting an animal like this is known as conservation. Examples of wolf reintroductions include Yellowstone National Park in America, and France and Spain. Can you think of any reasons why it might be important to save or return extinct animals? One reason is that they have an important job, keeping nature in balance. Wolves hunt deer, and without wolves, deer numbers can go very high. And those deer eat too many plants and trees, which then stops other animals from living in the same area. Wolves help keep deer populations at healthy levels and hunt the weak and sick deer, so the herds are healthier overall. A great example is Yellowstone in America, where they were reintroduced in 1995. Wolves have made the entire habitat a healthier one, with more wildlife than before. However, wolves need an awful lot of wild habitat and space to live in, and the Irish countryside has changed a lot in the last 200 years. There are much less forests and wild spaces, and many more farms and houses. Some people have spoken about the idea of maybe returning or reintroducing wolves to Ireland. Do you think it would be a good or bad idea, and why?
That much time. And
We're saying the sound is gone.
Oh, okay. It's okay back? Oh, we're back again. Fantastic. So just to say, we're just going straight into questions because we don't have lots of time today. So we have a really good question here from Eamon, and he wants to know, how do we get the animals in the museum?
Oh, yeah.
And so, do we kill them? And so the first thing to say is, no, we don't.
Yeah.
In short.
Important.
Very important to say. But you might remember in the first video that we showed you there at the beginning, we said how old the museum is. Mm-hmm. And so the museum is 163 years old this year. So things have changed a lot from the past until the present day. So if you think back over 100 years ago, hunting was a lot more popular back then, okay? And that's because there weren't laws to protect animals. And so most of the animals in the museum are hundreds of years old. So some of them were hunted. But today, no, we don't take animals that are hunted. And a good example is actually this little bunny rabbit we have here. We work with a taxidermist, many different taxidermists, but one of the taxidermists we work with, Jasmine Miles Long, she's an ethical taxidermist, which means she will only work with animals that she creates into these amazing models that have died of natural causes. All right. So hopefully that answers your question, Eamon, and thank you very much for it.
Yeah. So we have another question here that came in from Alexa Willis, and she is asking, what is the biggest animal in the Dead Zoo? And that's a really good question because we have so many, you might have seen that in the first video, we've got 10,000 different animals on display, but it's a pretty easy question to answer because the biggest animal we have is a big whale skeleton. You might have seen that in the first video as well. So we have two big whale skeletons that hanging from the ceiling in that first video, and you can see that the one on the top, the fin whale, is absolutely massive. It's the second biggest whale, or second biggest mammal on Earth. And yeah, it's really
like 20 meters long, and so think of a 20-meter swimming pool.
Yeah,
pretty long.
Massive. Yeah. So yeah, really good question.
Yeah. So next one we have a few questions coming in about dinosaurs. And so do we have any dinosaurs in the museum, and were the dinosaurs in Ireland? So in the museum, I want to ask was there any dinosaurs in Ireland first? So there's only been ever 2 fossils found in Ireland, up in the north of Ireland. I think it was the Antrim coast, and they found 2 fossil bones there. And so that's the only evidence for dinosaurs in Ireland ever. And they're not in our museum, they're up in the museum in Ulster in Belfast. And we know, though, from scientists studying this, that actually during the time of the dinosaurs, so like the Jurassic time, millions of years ago, Ireland was actually underwater. So there wasn't really, for most of Ireland was underwater, so there wasn't anywhere for them to be. Yeah. So we do have lots of like marine reptiles like plesiosaur and ichthyosaur that lived around back then, and we have those fossils in our collection. So we don't really have any dinosaur bones on display in the museum, except for one dinosaur tooth that we would have bought, and that's on display in the Irish room, which is pretty cool. And also someone asked as well, do we have snakes in our collection? And we absolutely do. And so if you go onto the virtual visit on museum.ie and go to the balconies, you can see our snake collection. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Very good. And we have another question that came in earlier, which is, what animals do you think might go extinct in Ireland next? And that is a really good question to be asking, because of course, like, the role of the museum as well now is protecting animals, and that's why we exist. We want to increase scientific knowledge about animals, and the more you know about something, the easier it is to protect it. So that's like a big part of our job. And at the moment, if you're wondering what animals are at risk of going extinct, the best place to look is to look at the IUCN Red List website. So this is an organisation that basically puts together all the scientific knowledge we have about all the animals in the world and gives them a status. So they give them a colour based on how at risk they are. And in Ireland, we have our own red lists for our native species as well. There are quite a few different animals on it, so it's interesting to see. One that springs to mind for me is we have red listed birds like the yellowhammer or corncrake as well, and curlew as well. So we do have animals that are at risk, but once you identify this, we can take steps to protect them.
So there's so many questions coming in now. It's fantastic, guys, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. One is about the antlers here that we were showing you and what's the writing on them. And so the writing is actually the date of when these would have been collected. So these would have fallen off the deer's heads, and then they write the date. So this one was back in 1994. And also these letters here are just to identify the deer it came from, because the deer would have tags on them. So these are fallow deer, and these are probably from the Phoenix Park in Dublin, and so they're all tagged so they can identify who is who, which is really useful when you're studying them. So that's one other one. We have more here, Emma. There's loads coming in. So what is our favourite animals was one of them. Do you want to go first?
Oh, it's really hard to tell. I have lots of favourite animals. I'm sure Geraldine does as well. One of them, I suppose, would be the grey wolf. I do love them, and the reason I love them so much is because of their behaviour and their pack behaviour and how they structure their societies and stuff like that. So I love all that aspect of their zoology.
I love the basking shark that is on display in the museum. I love basking sharks, but I particularly love the basking shark that's on display in the museum, and you would have seen it in the first video because it's absolutely massive, and they're not extinct. So you can still see them today. I've yet to see one though. It's on my bucket list. And what I love about them is that they're so big. They're the biggest fish in our waters, but the second biggest fish in the world. But they're absolutely like harmless, as in they're a shark, but they don't. They only eat tiny plankton. And so people do like kayak beside them or swim close to them, but you still have to respect them because they are a wild animal. And sure, if they were just to move one of their tail in one way, it could hurt you, but it wouldn't be their fault.
They're real gentle.
They're gentle giants. Exactly. So that's probably my favourite.
We have a question that came in from 4th and 5th class in Kilglass National School, and they were wondering, how do you know the names of all the animals? And that is an excellent question, because basically when scientists find animals, over the last hundreds of years, people have been studying animals, and when they find them, they describe them first, and then they give them names. So they all have a scientific name, which is in Latin language, and then they have a common name as well. And basically just me and Geraldine have to try and learn as many as we can. That's the answer.
Which is really hard sometimes. We're always, every day we're learning and learning new animal names. So guys, unfortunately, we have to finish up. Even though we have so many questions, we'll try and get back to them if we can in the comments. So we have to finish up now. But before we do, we just want to say a massive thank you again to the whole team at the Rediscovery Centre in Ballymun for inviting us along to the Let's Talk Science Festival this Science Week. We've had a fantastic time. We hope you have too, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your Science Week. We also want to say thank you to Science Foundation Ireland, because they also help out. They organise Science Week. And then I suppose the only thing to say is,
yeah, if you just keep an eye on museum.ie and the museum's social channels for information on all our upcoming events, we'd love to have you join us for one in the future.
yeah. So thanks a million, guys, and we hope to see you again soon.
Bye.